Welcome to Elon Local News, Elon's news leader.
Here are some of the stories we're following.
Alamance Crossing is expanding. Find out what new businesses are soon coming to the local shopping center.
Need a ride? A new public transit system is headed to Burlington. We'll look into how this affects the local community.
Meet the neighbors. We'll knock on the doors of houses you might walk by every day and say hello to the people inside.
All those stories and more.
ELN starts right now. Thanks for joining us at Elon Local News. We start tonight with new developments coming to the Alamance County area.
Alamance Crossing, just a 5-minute drive from campus, is expanding. Here to give us a look at what's to come is our John Curtis. John.
Thanks, guys. Alamance Crossing is changing. You can see that with all the construction going on over there. And in less than a year, Alamance Crossing will look a lot different. I sat down with Burlington's Director of Planning, Amy Nelson, who explained to me what's coming. Workers are building what will soon be a 244-unit apartment complex near the Five Below and Dick's Sporting Goods stores. The apartment complex will be called Retreat at the Park after the Josie Davidson Park across the street. New restaurants are also coming in the area with this new development. Two of the ones I'm excited about, a hamburger and shake stop called Freddy's will soon be built right near the BJ's gas station. Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue is also part of the addition. It just opened a few weeks back, and it is located only a few feet away from Burger King. Within the next year, Alamance Crossing will add more shops, including a boot barn. But the biggest development will be the new hotel coming to the area. The Drury Inn and Suites will be 6 stories high. Now, Nelson was unable to give me a number regarding how much all of this construction will cost. She did say, however, that these new developments are good for everyone in the community.
We have a nice benefit with all this construction, because the more construction that you see come into your city, whether you think it's needed or not, it helps keep your tax rate at a lower level than it would be if they're not there. It also encourages competition among stores, which keeps the prices low.
All of these new developments are within a mile radius of the current Alamance Crossing, and Nelson says all construction will be done in the next year. Back to you, Gary and Jasmine.
Thanks, John. Friday night, Elon University police arrested first-year student J. Scott Fares in Colonnades D for possession of cocaine and controlled substances, according to the police report. The report says police found 0.9 grams of the powdered form of the drug, along with an Ambien pill, a morphine capsule, and 3 acetaminophen hydrocodone pills. Alamance County Jail says Fares has been released on a $2,500 bond. His first court appearance was scheduled for this afternoon.
Phoenix Liz and Ed Mini Market is still allowed to sell alcohol after a failed alcohol compliance check on Thursday night. The police report says Elon Town Police sent a 20-year-old officer into the store to try and buy a beer. The clerk, Stefaniola Joseph, looked at the officer's license and still sold him the beer, even though the officer was underage. According to the police report, Joseph says she misread the license and thought the underage officer was old enough. Joseph and the store have been cited for liquor law violations.
An update on a student seriously injured over the summer. Junior Devon Bartholf's condition is improving daily, according to her mother. Bartholf was traveling on South Williamson Avenue at 61 miles per hour with a blood alcohol content of 0.24 when she struck a utility pole. According to the police report, through a site called Caring Bridge, her mother Tammy keeps family and friends updated on her recovery. Here's a picture of Bartholf her sister Meg shared on social media this week. She's the one on the left. The Caring Bridge site says while Bartholf is still in a wheelchair, she can now read and write, something she couldn't do a few months ago. The site says she will tentatively return home November 20th. Bartholf's GoFundMe has raised $4,500 in the past 2 months to help pay for her care. You can find the links to both the Caring Bridge site and the GoFundMe site on elonlocalnews.com.
Burlington and Gibsonville are partnering up to bring public transportation to the area.
While the Elon Board of Aldermen voted against helping out with the Burlington public transportation earlier this month, the new system will still affect many in the community. Our Miriam Lopez Rosales headed downtown to hear from local residents.
Burlington resident Joseph Rankin uses the Elon Bio bus to get around, but the downtown loop only runs in the afternoons Monday through Friday.
The bus takes, and then it's basically focused around the students of Elon, where they could go maybe a little further into downtown or maybe up into Burlington if this is the area that they're going to serve.
Nathan Wood, who just moved to Burlington 6 months ago, feels he can't get a job without more public transportation.
There's places that are just too far to walk, and you just don't even try because you don't feel like having to walk there. If you did have to walk there, it'd take you half the day to walk there.
With the new transit coming, Mike Nunn, executive director of the Metropolitan Organization, says it will be much easier for residents to get from point A to point B.
Expand folks' ability to move around our area, but it also is going to open up opportunities for folks that don't have transportation options. They can get that job now. They can go to a class somewhere. They can go to a medical appointment.
Even though the bus system was approved in June, it's going to take a while before it's up and running here in Alamance County and in Gibsonville.
It'll be another 11 to 12 months before we receive equipment. So it's not going to be here in the next 2 or 3 months. 16, 17, that's our goal right now.
As for costs, Nunn says the local community will be receiving a lot of help to pay for the public transportation.
A federal grant, which is going to provide 80% of our equipment purchase, and then you'll have a 10% local match, which the City of Burlington will pay. And then the NCDOT, the state DOT, will provide another 10%.
Once in place, the bus system is scheduled to run 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 6:30 p.m. Mariam Lopez-Rosales, Elon Local News.
Nunn says a trip on the bus will only cost $1 in order to be affordable for everyone in the community.
Voting is underway in North Carolina. Early voting started October 23rd and runs to November 4th. Alamance County has 4 early voting sites, so if you qualify for early voting, here's where you can go according to ncvoterguide.org. Just down the road, you can vote at the Holly Hill Mall or at the Coronado Senior Center on South Mebane Street. If you're a little further away, there's always the Graham Library on South Main Street, or you can vote in Mebane. Polls on Election Day, Tuesday, November 4th, will be open from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. That night, ELN will be bringing you live coverage from 8 to 10 p.m. with our anchors Rajat Agarwal and Ashley Boley. We're teaming up with the Pendulum for our coverage, and we want to hear from you. Check out our Facebook page for a survey on what these elections mean to college students.
This week, the Paraclene Scholars are hosting a Human Trafficking and Restavec Education Week. According to traffickinghope.org, there are more slaves today than ever before in human history, and the Paraclene Scholars are raising awareness on this issue. All week, there will be an exhibit in the Newman Lumen Pavilion giving insight into a day in the life of a Restavec or child slave from Haiti. Some of this week's events include a panel discussion on human trafficking tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. in Global Commons and a benefit concert Wednesday at 9 p.m. at Weston Terrace. The senior class is using the funds from this week to start an endowment scholarship for a child slave in Haiti.
Same mission, new name. This week, the university's Multicultural Center made the switch to CREED, or the Center for Diversity, Ethnicity, and Diversity Education. Even with the new name, the center, located in upstairs Mosley, still describes itself as a resource for underrepresented and historically marginalized racial and ethnic students, faculty, and staff. We spoke with Dean of Multicultural Affairs, Randy Williams, about what the new name signifies.
So when you consider that charge right there and trying to understand what it is that we do, we felt that it would be wise to make a very clear statement as to who we are, beginning with the title, and so hence the Center for Race, Ethnicity, and Diversity Education.
Students aren't the only millennials at Elon. Arcady Kaler rode along with one 23-year-old with more responsibility than most on campus.
At quick glance, you might mistake her for a student, and 2 years ago, Officer Hannah DeAngelo was one.
I can relate to these students, the college life, the workload, trying to find a job when you get out, extracurriculars, just the day in and day out of college life.
During her senior year at UNC Greensboro, DeAngelo interned with the Town of Elon Police Department, where she worked closely with university police. But she didn't think she would be back.
Never in a million years would I thought I'd end up on a college campus somewhere that, the same environment that I just graduated from.
At just 23 years old, DeAngelo is the youngest university police officer. In a college setting, she hopes her age makes her more approachable.
And I can sit down and have a conversation with you. It's not like I'm interviewing you or interrogating you.
University police have 3 women on their force, and DeAngelo says that with sensitive cases, being just a couple years out of school is her biggest advantage.
For females, a lot of them feel more comfortable talking to a female, and not just a female that has a lot of experience or that you think could be your aunt or your mother even, age-wise, but somebody that you could look at like a friend.
But sometimes age and gender can be her biggest challenge. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, women make up only 13% of law enforcement in the United States.
I'm equal among all the other officers here. But when you go out into the public, especially when they don't anticipate a woman coming, it's kind of a shock.
At the end of the day, DeAngelo says it's the students that make those challenges and her 12-hour shifts worth it.
Well, there's always a couple bad apples. There's also some that are just really appreciative of my service, and they really want to talk to me every day, and I'm able to help them.
Katie Kaler, Elon, Local News.
The new name of the Multicultural Center that we were talking about earlier is the Center for Race, Ethnicity, and Diversity Education. Now, you just met one of the university's newest police officers, but when we come back, get ready to meet some of Elon's oldest and newest neighbors. With leaves beginning to fall and the weather cooling down, students embraced the season this weekend with a visit to the pumpkin patch. Live music, food, and pumpkin carving brought students and community members to the Elon Community Gardens Fall Pumpkin Festival on Friday. The festival was put on by Elon's Garden Studio class to get the community together for some fall fun and to get people out to the garden. Junior Ellen Lana feels many at Elon don't even know we have a garden, but thinks it has a lot to offer the community.
Honestly, if the school expands, this will be the first thing to go, and it's been expanding at a pretty rapid rate. So we want to make sure that the community has ties to this garden and that kids find it important to come here.
For those who don't know where the garden is, it's located behind the tennis courts and Hillel House. All students are welcome to take what's grown in the garden.
A house abandoned for years just off campus now has a new family. Our Corey Shegda caught up with the Lassiters to talk about their new transition to Elon.
You might have walked by their house countless times and not even known they were there.
Nobody's lived here for probably 10 or 12, 15 years maybe.
Mike and Michelle Lassiter moved into this house on South Holt Street between the train tracks and Mill Point at the beginning of October. Being a family with 2 kids living in the middle of a college campus has some challenges.
There's a little more noise later in the evening than we thought there would be, but it's not been too unbearable so far.
But Michelle and Mike have a strong connection to the Elon community.
Grew up right down the road my whole life.
I actually lived across from the elementary school growing up until I was in middle school, and then we lived out on 87 out by Western High School for the rest of my childhood.
From growing up across the street to moving back to Elon, the Lassiters have enjoyed seeing how much the school has changed.
There's a lot more buildings on campus. There's a lot less streets because a lot of stuff's been closed off and rerouted.
Though they have known the location their whole lives, they are now happy to share their hometown with their kids.
They love it. They get to ride their bikes and walk them down the road. They like that.
Working with their bigger yard and fence so their dogs can run around, the Lassiters are working hard on fixing up their house and settling back into their roots. Corey Shegda, Elon Local News.
And that house Mike Lassiter mentioned he grew up in, well, his mother still lives there and has a lot to say about Elon students. Our Audrey Coates stopped by Martha Moss's house for a visit.
She has lived in the same house for more than 50 years.
I like the location. It's the center of everything, and it was real quiet and peaceful.
Martha Moss has seen Elon evolve from a college to a university, but as the university grew, cleaning up after her college neighbors became a weekly chore.
There's a lot of beer cans and things. On Sunday mornings, I'll get up and pick up everything and put it in my recycling bin. I tell my children, I said, I bet those recycling people think I'm an alcoholic, and I've never drank or smoked.
But it doesn't stop at trash in the yard. In 2008, Martha finally saved up enough money to buy a new car.
I got up the next morning and they had thrown eggs all over my car. But that bothered me a lot.
She's even cemented down her mailbox and tied it to the utility pole. But it's been knocked down time after time.
It's several times during the year. If they don't get it tore up enough, they'll keep on until they do. And I've had to replace, I don't know how many, I've lost count.
Despite all of the hardships, Moss says she tries to remain positive and isn't moving anytime soon.
Everyone's nice, and it's real pleasant around here with the college students if they didn't tear up my property. And mainly my mailbox.
She has just one wish.
I just wish every year I'd get a good set of kids. I love people and I love children, but I don't know what's wrong with those kids.
Audrey Coates, Elon Local News.
Come back, it wasn't a triathlon, it was a triathlon. We'll introduce you to one participant trying to make a difference. Members of the Elon community hopped aboard the Titanic this weekend. The musical, that is, presented by the Department of Performing Arts and McCrary Theater. You're not going to find Jack or Rose on this boat. Unlike the movie Titanic, the musical follows the last days of real passengers and crew members who were aboard the ship, such as the captain. If you missed the Titanic last weekend, you still have 3 performances you can catch. Tickets are available at the box office for shows this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 7:30 p.m. in McCrary. Admission to the show is $13 or free with an Elon ID.
A 250-meter swim, 12-mile bike, and 3.1-mile run. Elon held its first triathlon Friday, and it tested the mind and body in more than one way. Our Kaylee Tracy tells us how.
About 10 years ago, she actually unfortunately lost her battle with breast cancer, which it just, rocks your world.
When senior Eleanor Sykes was in 6th grade, her mom died of cancer. Sykes and her family now try to help other families affected by the disease.
It's always kind of been a way of getting out there, kind of dealing with what our family's been struck with, and the impact that cancer's had on our lives is, giving back, becoming involved.
And she has done just that, helping organize Friday's triathlon as Director of Survivor Relations for Elon's chapter of Colleges Against Cancer.
It's just a really fun way to get active, get out there for the cause, and just have people, getting ready for Relay for Life.
Thinking of her mom, Sykes remembers that events like the bike, run, and swim are about more than just exercise.
It's one of those things that you need to think about the cause. It's more than just, getting out there and walking. There's people who are being affected by cancer every single day, and I really wanted to bring that back and have everyone have that in their heart the whole time.
Participants in Friday's event were competing for the cause.
I've just heard so many stories about her and, how alike we are.
When sophomore Katie Sorgan was a baby, her grandmother died of ovarian cancer.
I just thought it would be a great idea to, not only do the triathlon to, support the school and support the organization, but to also do it in memory of her.
Roughly 20 teams and 20 individual competitors raced in triathlon, raising hundreds of dollars for the American Cancer Society. And if her mom were here today,
she'd be proud and happy that, I'm taking something that sucks and making it, a happy situation.
Kaylee Tracy, Elon Local News.
We wanted to get in on this good cause, so Friday we sent out an ELN team to the triathlon. Myself, fellow anchor Justin Beagle, and morning show host Ashley McGettrick will be participating in the event. To watch Elon Local News in action, tune into ELN Morning to find out how the triathlon team did. Tune in tomorrow at 9:50 a.m. To help raise money for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Elon's bookstore has turned to Pinterest. In their Picture a Cure campaign, Barnes & Noble College posts Pinterest pins on their BN-inspired board. Or, for those of you who don't use Pinterest, they post short blog posts to their account. For everyone who repins these posts on Pinterest, Barnes & Noble will donate $1 up to $25,000 to the Young Survival Coalition, an organization helping those 40 and younger with breast cancer. The fundraiser runs until the end of the month.
This Saturday, the annual Buddy Walk to support Down syndrome research was held in Greensboro. One Elon senior and his sister walk in the walk every year. We'll have this sibling story tomorrow morning on ELN Morning at 9:50.
Coming up this week in ELN sports, football wasn't the only team in action this weekend. Both the men's and women's basketball teams took the court Friday night. That and more after the break. Sunday was senior day for the men's soccer team as 5 players competed in their final game at Rudd Field of the regular season. Those 5 senior players were honored in a pre-match ceremony before Elon kicked off against James Madison. It was a scoreless affair that lasted close to 3 hours as the Phoenix and the Dukes engaged in a defensive battle that produced plenty of opportunities for both teams, but couldn't produce a winner after 2 overtimes.
We wanted to win the game. You know, we had the chance to, if we won out, we'd have won the league. The destiny was in our hands, but that wasn't to be. And every game in the Colonial is a tough game. And you know, I look at it as a point gained, and that could be a very important point in the run into the end of the season.
The day was also an emotional one for the seniors who may have taken Rudd Field for the last time, something they say they hope is not true.
We've had such amazing support here over the past 4 years, and it's got progressively better and better each year that I have no doubt it's going to keep getting better for these guys moving forward. But it's a sad feeling, and all we can say is that we really hope it's not our last game.
Taking a look at the CAA men's standings, after the draw against JMU yesterday, Elon men's soccer currently sits at 3rd behind UNCW and Hofstra. The Phoenix have 2 games remaining this week against College of Charleston and Delaware. If the Phoenix win out and get some help, they can earn the #1 overall seed in the conference tournament, which would be held at Rudd Field 2 weeks from now. Be sure to follow ELN Sports on Twitter and Facebook to see how the conference tournament shapes up. The Elon football team returned to Rhodes Stadium this weekend after a rough outing against Stony Brook last week. The Phoenix hosted Richmond in its annual Live Pink game. The players wore special pink decals on their helmets, while coaches wore hats and other pink apparel to raise awareness for breast cancer. And of course, who can miss that big pink logo at midfield? Richmond got off to a hot start after a Jacoby Green 39-yard touchdown run sparked the Spiders' offense. Scary moment for the Phoenix when quarterback Mike Quinn went down with an apparent elbow injury. He would not return, which meant redshirt sophomore John Lockerty would take over for the rest of the game. The highlight of the day for the Phoenix became right before the halftime when Elon punter David Petroni ran the ball on a fake punt attempt, making him Elon's rush leader at the half. But after a long and slow game, the Spiders would prove too much for Elon with a final score of 30-10, Elon's 7th loss of the season. Elon will be on the road the next 2 weeks at Towson and William & Mary. In continuation of Elon's inaugural season in the CAA, Elon's basketball began their campaign last Friday night. Both the men's and women's teams took part in Late Night with the Phoenix, where students and faculties and members of the community got a chance to look at this year's teams. The women were the first to take the stage after the opening dance. The ladies played a 10-minute scrimmage. Fans got the chance to see freshmen, transfers, and players who were injured most of last year take the court. Head women's basketball coach Charlotte Smith said the atmosphere Friday night was amazing and is vital to a successful season.
It was a great night tonight. It was really fun, so hopefully everybody will go out and spread the word that, hey, there's some great players out there that need support.
The team will begin its season on November 2nd against Catawba in an exhibition game at 6 o'clock in Alumni Gym. About 2 weeks later, the women's team will host its first regular season game of the year versus Division II Anderson at 5 o'clock. Elon's first home CAA game will be versus Delaware on January 4th. Shortly afterwards, the men's team took the court, led by senior Ryan Winters and his slick dance moves. Head coach Matt Matheny tried to match that, but didn't receive the same reaction. Matheny later addressed the fans, stating that they need to pack Alumni Gym each and every game. That's it for sports, Gary and Jasmine. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook for all other updates throughout the week. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Jacob, and that's all we have for Elon Local News.
For all the latest news, you can always find us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Elon Local News.
We hope to see you back here tomorrow morning when ELN Morning goes live during College Coffee. Have a great week, Elon.